Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mix Podcast. My name's Eric.
My name's Anthony.
My name's John.
My name's Kynmane.
Kendrick here.
In light of recent events, mainly the death of George Floyd, we wanted to dedicate this podcast to the Black Lives Matter movement and hopefully a push towards true racial justice. Thank you. Alright guys, what's stirring?
Yeah.
What is
I mean, I know Kyan had a movie in mind, but only about like half of us watched it. So, I don't know. Kyan, why don't you describe it?
I was gonna say we should save it for next week, but alright, I guess I can try to describe it to y'all.
Sure.
We can do a media review next week, but let's jump into a topic that we can all start talking about pretty quick. Kendrick posed the question earlier, is life black and white or gray? So that's something that we can start to discuss now.
I think there's some aspects that are definitely like straight up black and straight up white.
But at the end of the day, it's just gray, though.
Yeah, I think overall most things are gray. But like, I think murder overall is like a really evil thing.
Well, it's also a gray area because, for all we know, that murder could have been justified.
Well, I don't think any murder
that's
is
very
really
slim.
truly
That's
justified.
very slim, though.
Like I'm not a fan of capital punishment.
Well, does the definition?
Oh, you missing out on that. But
Yeah, see, I think that capital punishment should only be implemented if it's cost effective, or if the inmate poses a danger to other inmates, or possibly if he ever gets out. I don't really think that the taxpayer should pay to house and feed someone who has killed or raped people. So I just
real
don't
question
think
is why
it's,
they're alive
it's
in the first
worth
place.
it.
I think it's too easy. Letting them off too easy.
then fucking
Really?
Well, torture.
Well, not torture. Whoa, I'm
Well,
not.
all right. Well,
You can
here,
go back
here.
to the.
Well,
I'm just saying,
go back
like,
to the
you
six
gotta
and
let
through
them
people in the electric
acknowledge their own things.
Well, see, you're saying
That's capital punishment.
Well, you're saying letting them off easy. Do you mean that death is too easy? Because the only alternative to that is torture. Because it's like,
Well, no, I'm saying like jail in itself is already like a super serious punishment because you are alone with your thoughts,
But
and that's how you
think
reflect
that's,
on things, right?
What was that
Hold
thing
on.
called? It's like isolation, but in prison. I forgot. Solitary confinement.
Yeah, like solitary confinement, but that's super cool, and I think that's what we should do instead of the death penalty because it's too easy for somebody to like commit heinous crimes.
But then you kind of have to leave them in there because the moment you let them out, they're just more crazy than they were when they went in.
see, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think saying like 3 months in the hole is like at the end of the day, like the regular person, the taxpayer is still paying to feed them, to give them shelter and heat. Jail should be for rehabilitation for less serious crimes.
I kind of agree.
I mean, like the only flaw that I can see with capital punishment is that the justice system is not always correct. So it would obviously lead to some unjustified people dying, like killings. But I think like if there's ample evidence to support that someone did something that's just unforgivable and just a heinous act, I think there's no point in keeping them alive. Because there's always the off chance that they could harm other prisoners, they could escape possibly, and it's just removing them entirely from society. And sometimes jail is just ineffective.
There's also a
even,
prevalent overcrowding as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think someone who robbed a bank shouldn't be kept in the same cell as a guy who killed 10 people in cold blood.
And then
No matter if they surrendered peacefully or not.
And kind of going back to what Anthony said on how it'd be like letting them off too easy. Sometimes, a lot of times, I'd argue these people who commit the crimes that deserve like capital punishment, they are in a different mindset than the typical people. So they wouldn't necessarily have the same feelings towards isolation or whatever. They could be perfectly fine for all we know and just be living it up, so to speak. Just, not even thinking or lamenting about what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, but I feel like you lose the punishment aspect when it's just like, okay, you committed the crime, now that's it for you, no more. Like, I feel like to actually show justice to the people who are harmed by that person, you need to know that that person understands what they did was
they
bad.
Probably won't.
So,
And
do you think it's...
The whole point of why they did it is because they could. And
Yeah.
when they did it, they were like, I have no remorse.
Well, that's what they say about everybody who goes to jail in the first place, but after a little bit, they change, right? Like, that's what jail is for. It's for rehabilitation in the first place. People
Sure.
go in, they understand that what they did was
there
really bad.
for rehabilitation. They're like, yo, I'm with my people.
Now, do you think this
but
is
that's what jail
also
is for.
partially for like the closure of the families that were affected?
Yeah,
I think-
it's mainly for the families.
Yeah, I mean, for some families, like, you can never find closure. I know sometimes, like, people who have murdered in jail get, like, contacted by the family of the person who they killed, and then at sometimes they can actually kind of form like a relationship, and there can be, like, true remorse. But I think, like, it's just not cost effective.
Yeah, like, if you don't know what would happen to that other person, like you committed a murder and then you just get murdered yourself later on by the government, it's kind of just like there was no purpose in that. There was no gain. That person didn't know what they did was wrong.
Well,
There was no
I mean, there's
teaching
no
in that. And
there's
then
no moral gain, but I'd argue that just getting that person away from just getting that person like, it's not meant as like a punishment, more as like just a solution to having like someone in a society. Like, it's not saying like, oh, an eye for an eye, like, oh, this is your punishment, fess up. It's more just like, this person can't be on this earth anymore because he harms other people. So it's like, no matter if he repents or knows he did something wrong or not, he just can't be here anymore. And then that's either life imprisonment or capital punishment execution.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I feel like life in prison, it hits harder for most people because they know that they have to now experience what happens for the next like 60 years, and they have to live through that, and they have to live with that guilt and remorse, which I'd argue is a worse punishment than death. And I think
some people want death. Yeah, some people are on like suicide watch, stuff like that. Like, they couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Like, if they die
that's
or
just the
not.
easy thing.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
easy way
Like,
out.
it'd be the easy way out, right? Yeah, but
I guess that proves that it's gray, right?
yeah, because some people want to die, some people don't. But I'd argue that what the inmate wants doesn't really matter anymore. Like they kind of forfeit some of their rights, and part of that is like what punishment befits the crime. So I think
Well, it's also for the family who was affected too, right? Like, if you see somebody did something really horrible to your family, and then just like they get like this really easy way out for them because they want to die, and then they get themselves killed, and that's it. You don't really get to like learn from that experience. You don't get to like fully move on because that person just got to.
Is it like a healthy coping device though to watch the guy who killed like your best friend or like family member just rot in prison?
I mean,
like, is that really is that a healthy way to?
That's what a lot of people want. They kind of just want to know that that person is gonna now suffer as they suffer for the rest of their life.
I don't know if it's about watching and knowing like every day moving forward that they are. I think it's having that knowledge that they're put away and that they're not going to harm anyone else from here on out, hopefully.
But then there's a time limit, because odds are he's only going to be in there for what, 60 years? And if he survives that shit, it's like, he's back on the streets.
Death penalty is usually like 160 years, like over 100 years.
Well, yeah, that's like if you get multiple life charges. Like, if you get like three counts of first degree murder, 3 life in prison charges all go through, then it's like, I mean, it depends on the state, obviously. Like in Massachusetts, where we are, I don't think we have capital punishment anymore. But somewhere in like France, like they were using the guillotine up until like 1970. And like, shit,
that's crazy.
Sometimes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I don't know. I think I think it comes down to partially how the family thinks.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think but is it really healthy closure to want to watch someone rot in prison for the rest of their lives?
I feel like it's easier.
I think it's just like
Yeah.
if you're gonna suffer for the rest of your life, I think there's a part of you that also wants to know that the person who did that harm to you is also gonna suffer for a long time.
Is also suffering. Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like you have to constantly know it, but every time you think about it, you have to think, now that person's been in jail for 20 years, they haven't had any freedom.
Justice was served, right?
I mean, you could say the same thing for
justice
killing
has
someone.
justice was served and is being served.
Well, I mean, that's where it's really subjective, though. You know, because some people will say, you know, like, they'd have, like, the eye for an eye mentality and be like, he might as well just die. He might as well just bite the dust. I think that's...
I just said, isn't it the same thing for killing the person? I mean, personally, I think if I was someone and, like, let's say someone killed my mom or something, if they died, like, they were sentenced to death, and I remember that thought, and I would tell myself, that person got what they got. They die, you know? They took a life, now their life was taken. And I don't see that as taking an easy way out, because...
You see that as a soul for a soul.
Not a soul for a soul, that's the...
Equivalent
it's
exchange.
their punishment, you know? They're no longer on this earth, and wherever they go next, if they go anywhere...
trade deal in all trade.
Probably fitting of their punishment.
Yeah, exactly. Especially
Sure.
if you're a religious person.
Okay, so now kind of I'd like to think our final verdict on this. Do you think like this specific topic of death penalty and whether murderers are like bad? Well, I feel like that in itself, that murdering and killing is bad. It's sort of black and white. But then kind of what happens afterwards as an effect is a gray area.
Yeah, honestly, my only concern with it is, well, I have two concerns. One is that sometimes people are sentenced to death wrongfully, and often people who are sentenced to life in prison will end up being able to get out because new evidence comes forward. But you can't just...
Well, I mean, that was in the old times,
but
where they wanted to put the blame on someone and they didn't have enough evidence to put it on the actual person. Nowadays, there's DNA testing and there's a bunch of different things that can prove someone innocent. And there's nothing you can do about that.
Cameras now.
Well, witness testimonials still play a huge role in trials today, and people lie. Like, that's just straight up. Like, there was like kind of recently I was reading some article where it was like there was a rape charge, and this young man wrongfully served like 10 years in prison,
30 years,
where in some places he may have been put to death, and then later the accuser admitted it to being false. So I think in that case it's like, if the death penalty was instated, then, you know, a young man would have been wrongfully killed, and then what are you gonna do? Charge the woman? Like,
there was actually
Yeah.
There was a case recently that actually, like, I think this guy's still in jail right now, but people were like, sign a petition, this man was wrongfully
he's like 120
in prison,
days on death row or something, right?
Yeah, like, and he's about to die, and people are still signing a petition for him, and it really is going to be awful if they do, like, sign a petition, everybody finds him like innocent, and then he's still, like, he's dead after that.
Yeah, 5 years later, it's like, oh, sorry guys, he was lying the entire time. They were lying the whole time.
They just slide the family a check, and they're like, my bad. Like, that doesn't
exactly. Like, the government thinks that a lot of times that money will just solve the past. And it's like, I don't know, emotional trauma of watching your kid go on death row wrongfully and then being killed is not worth any price tag. You know, and it's like, even if you get off, it's like your reputation is stained forever. Like, I know if any one of us were falsely accused of anything, often even without evidence, especially in like sexual assault cases, no matter what the verdict is, your life is ruined right there. Like, you're not getting a job.
I actually think
people who associate with you are, you know, ostracized.
They're gonna kind of cut ties with you.
I actually think you carry that title even if it's proven false. I'm pretty sure.
Definitely.
Like if you are,
Definitely, yeah. You're still, even if you're not legally a sex offender, people will look at you like that.
you still have to report it.
Yeah.
No, like I mean, like you still have to report it on a job that you were like
Oh, legally?
that you are a sex offender. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure you have to like go forward and say that you were accused.
And you can
of sex
say, but it was proven
Imagine
wrong.
lying and ruining someone's life.
accused. And unfortunately, like it happens. Like it sucks, and it happens. So that would be my main argument against the death penalty, is that new evidence always comes to light.
So that's definitely great. What else is like a black and white thing that you guys think exists?
If I could say something, I think maybe we should elaborate more on the current situation regarding the I suppose civil unrest of the country, since Eric did state that this podcast was kind of dedicated to like George Floyd. Yeah.
So, whole country's going up in flames. So
I
that's
think
a start.
Yeah.
Although it's been doing that since
unfortunate.
January, which is wait, that's Australia. I was thinking about. Never mind.
I mean, I feel like these issues, they've been prevalent for such
Yeah, it's
a
just kind of
long
all
time,
coming to a head now.
and it's finally reached a boiling point.
There's a
Yeah,
chance it could go higher, actually,
Yeah.
because
Let's
there were
hope
riots
It
like
already
this in the
is
past
right
too.
now.
No doubt
Let's
about
hope
it.
that there's lasting change before it gets any worse. Yeah, let's
Like
hope that there's
Baltimore.
like I know we had a protest here in Quincy, and it was totally peaceful. It was amazing, and I think
So that's what the cops
like,
were doing when I was out biking.
That was like that.
Yeah,
that
but
was
even
a
in like
model.
Brockton though.
Yeah, Brockton. Was it like a McDonald's that went up, or is it like a police station?
Yeah, I think it was a Dunkin'.
Oh
Donuts
yeah.
that went up.
Right, yeah. I remember seeing a thing online where it was like McDonald's has fallen, and it was like something all
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
unfortunately, like the people who are kind of doing that, like who like burn down stuff, oftentimes it's in their own community, which kind of sucks because it's like,
Yeah.
it's you're like, you know, you're like you patronize like you are a patron of these establishments, and it's like, why are you destroying it? But like I understand like the police station being wrecked, you know, because that's certain government buildings,
Sure.
because that's that's kind of a key symbol of what's been going on,
The issue.
of the issue. Yeah, exactly. But like oftentimes, like, you know, a small business
I mean,
isn't opposing your movement. So
The thing is, with some of those small
Yeah, so-
businesses, they attack them
Big time.
because they're not really giving back to the community, and you know they just hold all the money for themselves, which is, I think, another reason why they're even going for them. Yeah.
But that's because they're a
That's
small
what a
business. They
business
don't have
is,
money
like-
to
Yeah,
go
but
out.
even like the
Like
ones that
in
do,
the-
but like there are small businesses that do give back to the community, and then there's ones that don't.
I don't
Yeah, well,
think
I mean,
you're,
some-
like, you should
some
be
of them
was-
forced to give money.
yeah, I don't
out,
think
but-
like I don't think there should be you should be
I
under
think-
threat of looting if you don't give back to the community. I think like
I mean,
because oftentimes they were black owned, sometimes too.
Yeah.
and it's like that just defeats the purpose. Like I don't know. I don't think like I think and they're not like a symbol of the injustice that's been going on. Like police stations, government buildings, like I said, they like if anything should have been targeted, it should have been those. But you know.
yeah.
I do understand though.
I think it is important to make a distinguishment between those who actively loot and actively vandalize versus the peaceful protesters who are just trying to get their point across and create
Yeah,
change.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, there were even like Jake Paul was caught looting. Like come on, you're
Dumbass.
like you're not even affected like in large part
And-
by
and-
this injustice. Like you're a white guy, and like he was just taking advantage of the situation created, and that happened a lot too. Like in New York, 1 out of 7 people arrested during these protests and unfortunate like destruction, they were from out of state.
They weren't even there for the
Yeah.
protest; they were just there to loot.
I know a lot of people are.
Apparently, some police
Yeah.
officers were
Yeah,
doing
people
it
were
too.
leaving out like police officers
Which is
were trashing
sketchy.
their own cars. People were like organizations were like leaving like pallets of bricks in the path of protesters. Like unfortunately, it was incited a lot of times by police. Like it was people trying to discredit the movement, and unfortunately, it's kind of working a little bit. Unfortunately,
yeah. But it was really impressive though that
it's kind of
50
bad
states
too.
Held protests in one day,
that
and we had
was
like
pretty
people
cool.
outside of those states.
that was really cool, especially having them so close to like in my city. It was just so cool seeing that, because
You could literally walk 10 minutes and be at the protest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a sense of national solidarity that I feel like we haven't had in a very long time, and I think in light of this whole pandemic, and then now the sort of boiling point of systemic racism, I'd say, at least as of current time, it's very, very nice to have this sense of unity.
It's gonna force the government's hand now, though, because like, if nothing changes out of this, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, when's the last time all 50 states did one?
They've already
At least
said, they've already said that they'd be putting in changes, and think our own state put in like 10 new things that they were definitely.
Yeah, I know there was
through.
proposed legislation like 10 points in Massachusetts. Yeah, I don't know if it's been like passed or it's guaranteed to pass, but like, I feel like if it like, there's so much pressure from the people that it should get passed.
There's no way that nothing's gonna happen from this, because the people are just going to hold the pressure, and if the government continues to back their current system and they're not willing to bring on change, then the protesters and everyone who sees the issues in the system are just gonna get more fired up and continue to push
one
back.
unfortunate kind of consequence of a lack of change was the riots, because a lot of people were saying, well, protests have been held before, and this is still going on. So like, in some people, like one opinion is that like the riots just like protests don't work, was a lot of the attitude, and it's like the only way that anyone will listen is if there's like a monetary kind of price tag to the destruction and to the pain that these people feel. So
yeah, because a similar case like this happened a little bit ago, and they held peaceful protests, but it wasn't really heavily, like, it wasn't in the media. Nothing came as a change of it. I'm pretty sure the cop who did it just got kind of like a slap on the wrist and was like allowed to move on.
Even then, the cop who was kneeling on him only has second-degree murder when the family is calling for first-degree. It's like the guy like George Floyd collapsed from a heart attack.
Yeah, he was having a fucking heart attack when they were
it's literally well they were just walking him to the squad car, and then he fell, and that's an immediate red flag. That's an
nobody thought to check him.
You're not resisting if you fall unconscious. There were clear
and the thing
flags.
too, he said he would enter the car. He said he would enter the car, but they wouldn't get off of him. They wouldn't get off of him.
And like at that point,
and I think,
sorry, go ahead.
I think his death was also due to a lot of they were negligible, where they didn't know how to do CPR even when he stopped breathing. Typically you don't need CPR if the heart's still going, but like you have to make sure that they're breathing, and then if they're not breathing, the heart's gonna go. And he didn't get that necessary vital life-saving compressions that could have saved him from
as
cardiac
a YMCA
arrest.
employee, I have to know CPR, so it's kind of hard to believe that 4 trained police officers who are supposed to be serving a community can't see the signs of a man having a heart attack and dying.
Of someone who can't breathe.
Literally, the signs were there. He collapsed, and that's when they should have immediately called an ambulance and then began CPR. But instead,
they didn't even check on him. Bystanders kept on telling them to check his pulse, and they were like, no, why?
He was flat. He was just on the ground. Like he could only say, he was dying. So.
Then all 4 cops actually got charged too with aiding and abetting murder.
Yeah.
And that they should, as they should, because if you're standing there and
you're just standing there with your dick in your hands, just not doing anything.
Wrong.
Yeah, and they all and it wasn't like he had a heart, like George Floyd had a heart attack while he was being restrained. He had a heart attack like a minute before he was even being restrained.
He was in the midst of one, I think.
Yeah, it took him collapsing on the ground, and then the officer put his knee on his neck. So like he saw the guy collapse without anyone even touching him, because he was being led to the car. So like, you know, like they had to know something was wrong. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird right now that there's 2 like opposing autopsies. Like the family hired their own autopsy, and they said that the murder was due to asphyxiation, and then the police's one said that it was due to a heart attack. So that also brings up some questions.
Yeah.
I think if you have underlying heart conditions, then a lack of oxygen could put stress on your body, which would induce a heart attack.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. And it also kind of goes probably into like there's probably a little bit of bias on both sides, because the government, I guess the police autopsy official must have been like, oh, you know, yeah, I mean, it was a heart attack. It was pre-existing.
I mean, everybody could have, yeah, exactly. Everybody could have a heart attack.
Yes.
So that's easier to say for them. Whereas, like, with the family, they saw that, like, the officer was kneeling on his neck, and the others were keeping him pinned down, and so they see suffocation.
Yeah, there's no, you know, there's no, like, no remorse either, you know, it's just, like, it was something like 8 minutes, like, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. And then you're telling me that 4 officers. He's like a big hefty guy, but even then, four people, you can't get him up and put him in a car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also can't check on him like he's unconscious. Like, I don't know. Like at some point, like it would have been probably like a little bit more lenient if he had a heart attack while resisting, if he had resisted at all. But it was like, but like he collapsed while walking into the squad car. Like no one was on him or anything. It was just he just collapsed. He just gave out.
Yeah.
And that's a clear red flag for like,
any officer.
For something going on. So something not related to like him resisting. So and it's like, and if like the average person could identify that, like I work for minimum wage and I'm required to know CPR. So why isn't a career cop who is supposed to be serving a community, like, why can't he see a man collapse, and then why is his first thought, oh, let me kneel on his neck for eight minutes, you know? Yeah,
and the police force even kind of came out and said
unacceptable.
That's not like the proper restraining method, and that it's not taught anywhere.
Yeah, I've never seen a cop kneel on someone's neck.
It is allowed, but very few police departments allow it, and then it's only allowed if they're actively restraining, which he clearly wasn't. Yeah. And then just something else, like I know if you're a police officer and you're detaining someone, sometimes they don't want to go with you, obviously, so they'll just like go on the ground and refuse to get up. But that's totally different from what George did.
Yeah, because
he just collapsed. He wasn't trying to.
He wasn't showing signs. Like you said, he wasn't showing signs of resisting. Even like he wasn't resisting at all. So for him to just all of a sudden flop is just uncharacteristic to the situation. Like that wouldn't have happened. Like because he wasn't actively resisting. So if he collapsed, your first thought shouldn't be, oh, he's starting to resist as soon as he gets to the door. Like, you know. Because it was a relatively small charge. Like he was using like a fake $20 bill, I think, and like that's a small charge. Like I don't even think he should have been arrested.
Was that confirmed?
I don't know.
I thought it was like I thought it was something like check fraud or something.
I don't know. Well, the store that he had just recently left called the cops on him for using fraudulent currency or just using like a bad check or something like that. But even then, like, it's not. I don't know what the
yeah, that doesn't justify 5 cops.
It doesn't.
That's on grounds for maybe 1.
Well, that's grounds for like.
I did hear that the officers were told that there was like some drunk guy who might have been high or whatever, you know, having trouble, but I don't know.
There was also like a crowd there, so I mean it makes sense that there'd be a few cops. It doesn't make sense that if the cops then see a man who collapses to immediately think he's resisting. It just doesn't make sense.
There's also a lot of new cases coming up during the riots and stuff. Like, did you guys see the video of that old man who got pushed by like a bunch of cops and he hit his head? And they're trying to rule it off like he tripped.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases.
Yeah.
You know, I think like with all this stuff going on,
it doesn't look like tripping.
Cops are kind of looking for an excuse. I think everyone in this situation is a little bit on edge. And I think some people and like civilians and cops are taking advantage of the situation to kind of maybe do more than they should.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think like there's never an excuse to push an old man. Like never.
Definitely. I mean, unless he's like coming at you with a freaking.
But I saw the
knife.
video and like he does like old like people who are seniors.
No, he was.
They don't have any like they don't have a lot of mobility either. So it's like you can't expect them to immediately comply and like move away quick.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
like teleport out of your view or something.
Yeah, or even jog.
And that's kind of another thing. I feel like it's such a shame that there's so much unrest because of this excessive force that led to the death of a person, and then also like the death of so many people even before George Floyd. And now, even though we're fighting and standing against excessive force by police and the justice system, they're using the same force to disperse the crowds who are just trying to get their voice across.
Yeah, nothing's changing. It's like they're not going any easier. You know.
I mean, I must say though, there are a lot of departments that are pretty good on it, and they even stand with the protesters. So it's nice to see that.
I forget who it was. I think it was the senator of Minneapolis.
Yeah, he got pepper spray, right?
Nah, he was like during an interview, he was like, "No, I stand with the riots," and then he like left the scene.
Oh wait, wasn't there?
Which I thought was pretty dope.
I thought that there was a senator who was arrested by cops and like kind of like treated poorly. Well, treated terribly.
Yeah, the black guy. I forget. He's the senator of. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know what senator or state it was, but like even the government officials are being like, I don't know, you know, even the government officials are being mazed.
They're wilding out here.
You can say that again.
I remember seeing like.
You can say that again.
I saw a picture where like a little girl was crying because she got like tear gas, and I think it's just bad that they launched tear gas. I mean, I don't think they meant to do it. They were just shooting it into the crowd. But at the same time, I'm sort of like, why are you bringing a little girl to a protest?
Yeah, I think
that's just terrible parenting right there.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been shooting tear gas. I don't think, especially at like protests, unless it got like way out of hand. But like at the same time, it's kind of the parents' fault a little bit for bringing a kid into like a volatile situation like that. A protest is no place for a child.
The child could have been at home The child could have been at home vibing, but you decided to bring them along.
Even for like practical reasons for 2020, like coronavirus still exists. So even the
that's like,
another even
thing
if
too.
Why would you still bring
them?
them?
Like even if there wasn't a risk of like tear gas or
there's still the risk of corona.
Yeah, there's still a risk of people being crowded in an area. In New York, like I don't know where the little girl was being got tear gassed, but like especially in like New York and stuff, they have some of the highest coronavirus infection rates of the United States.
Yeah.
And even Massachusetts is like third or fourth.
No, I see so many people without masks too. I mean, it's fair if you want to go to a protest, just wear a mask. And yeah, I see a lot of people who do, but at the same time,
Did
there's
everyone
a lot
just
of
forget
people
about
who
the
don't.
virus, and that's why they just went without masks?
A lot of people did.
Like,
Yeah.
they forgot that was a thing for 3 months.
There was also that revelation that came out that like some people were like, you know, tear gas is not allowed in warfare, and they were like, why is it allowed in peaceful protests and even riots? Like, how are you not going to use it on your enemies, but you're going to use it on your civilians?
Well, I mean, worst thing. I'd
Pretty
argue
sure tear
that,
gas is
I'd argue
allowed.
the worst thing.
Nah,
so
it came
worst
out.
things, like they're not gonna
Oh,
fire
yeah,
off
it is.
drone strikes on the other holding side. I don't think.
Enemies, you want dirty
They're not gonna
above.
drop a tactical nuke on like a bunch of like that'll be. Everyone will say that's taking.
That drone is making a comeback
Yeah,
turn.
exactly.
Watch out!
Yeah, I do. Like, I don't know if. I mean, I guess I don't know if like tear gas is.
No, yeah, it was
prohibited.
prohibited in 1925.
Oh yeah, but I mean, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, but they're
So
using
it's-
gas in World War II though, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's against warfare, but
Oh,
nobody
yeah,
really
I guess,
cares,
yeah.
right?
Like
No,
like,
but no. I
That's-
know. I
it's
know
not like mustard
certain
gas.
things such as mustard
mustard
gas
gas, yeah.
and carcinogens.
well,
you
because
know.
tear
That
gas.
shit was fun.
But I mean, tear gas is
It's not
different.
gonna
It's
kill you.
so,
You can
tear gas is
tolerate
like
it.
chemical compounds, and then they have like pepper gas too.
You can tolerate tear gas and pepper gas, but mustard gas is just some other fucked up shit.
Kyan knows from experience.
I do?
Why were you tear gassed?
No.
When I jumped
He
the wall, they
exposes
were trying
himself
to
in
tear
small
Yeah, yeah.
doses.
Kind has become immune to tear gas. Hey, that's a nice photo though. Like I keep looking at my profile pic like on the stream when it pops up. That's too much. I have to go back to that look.
You can't turn back the clock, Eric. You already look older than you should.
Yeah, this beard. I just don't care anymore.
just shave it, my guy.
It's just gotten to that point.
It's grown on
I'm
you.
gonna grow it as much as possible until I have to like go back to work, and then I'm gonna make like a goatee or like a soul patch.
Are you?
Just
Don't do
get
a
rid of
soul
it all.
pedo stash? Pedo stash right there.
You also need some more hair on top of your head.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I shaved my head. I don't know why I shaved my head and then I just left my facial hair alone, cause actually Supercuts is open
Is
now
it?
too, where like down the street from where I live. Yeah, so like it was
I'm about to get a cut
like
there
it,
soon.
it was all for
I
nothing.
mean,
it was all for nothing.
this fresh cut here was done by me. Yeah, just at home.
Oh, really?
I didn't realize that.
You
I mean,
fixed
no,
up what Hannah did?
it just kind of grew, and then as it grew, it just looked better.
Have y'all seen Jose? Actually,
Okay.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I have no idea
well,
who
yeah,
Jose
he's
is.
not part of the stream or anything, so it's not worth mentioning. Yeah, but certainly, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It'll look good.
We're coming
Trust
up
me.
on like 40 minutes,
It'll look good.
so
Mhm.
38:07.
Good, though.
I think that this is a fine kind of stopping point.
Yeah.
We dove pretty deep into said topic. So unless anyone has any closing remarks, I think we're good.
I mean, I think it'd be nice to hear from our audience comment either in the stream chat or probably YouTube would be better.
on that YouTube channel. That's not
All two of them, right?
Yeah, what topics you want to hear about?
Yeah, also follow our IG. It is the period mix podcast.
That'd be
I
another
post
good
stuff
place.
sometimes. Yeah, comment.
Sometimes.
Let us know. DM. Because we are running out of ideas.
it's
only
only
the second
the
stream.
second episode. Running out of ideas, boys.
Yeah, we have to make lightning strike a third time.
That's some
Yeah, can it
Y'all
be
should have
done?
went with my idea, but y'all didn't listen to me.
Well, I don't know.
a movie review.
I don't know.
Are we done?
Do we
Yeah.
want to become a movie review? Do we want
Movie
to become
review
like
channel.
a media? Because there are media reviewer channels who are dedicated to that, and they know a lot more than we do. Like I'm fine. Like
Yeah.
maybe if something's like really recent, like it just came out, and then we all saw it, we can give like for instance, like if this was around the time that like Tiger King came out, and it was like a really big trend, and then everyone watched it, that's something that's really that's like really relevant, and we don't have to really like be analytical about it. We can just say, oh, I like to dislike these aspects. But as we go into like different forms of media, or like older and stuff, like we have to kind of know what we're talking about, and I don't think we're the most like theatrically inclined to be talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we're still working things out, and if anything, we'll do our research.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
because we have to do more than just watch the movie. All right, fellas, thanks for stirring it up with the mix.
Yeah, every Friday, think 6 p.m.
Every Friday, whenever we're done editing
The dream is every
6
Friday
with
at 6 p.m.
asterisks.
Yeah, we're usually half an hour late.
Yeah.
So all right,
tune in at 6 for the pre-show.
All right, so when I say stop, we'll all hit stop. 3, 2, 1, stop.